My brothers and sisters, and my beloved confreres, a very hearty welcome to each one of you to this monthly Recollection Talk in the season of Advent. When I look back, I feel like defining spirituality as a nostalgic return to one's own self. The history of the world has proved that all those people who tried to form spirituality in the life journey of this world had something in common. Look at Lord Buddha. When he was born, on the same day, his mother died. Later, if you look at the lifestyle of Lord Krishna, you would find, although his parents were alive, he never experienced the life and the love of his parents along with him. He lived with someone else. And you would find almost the similar story in the case of Moses, representing the Jewish religion. The same day as he was born, his mother had to place him among the reeds of the river Nile, where the daughter of Pharaoh came for bath, and she became his mother in the course of time. When we look at Jesus, we find the same. It is very well narrated in the Gospels that Joseph was not his father. Joseph was merely a foster father, and Jesus was the Son of God. Later, when we look at Muhammad Nabi, we would also find the similar story. 6 months before his birth, his father died. And 6 years later, his mother also died. Literally, Nabi lived as a yatim, an orphan. Yes, people who tried to form a world spirituality always had something similar to look for, a father who will take charge of their lives. As my brothers and sisters, this is something that is very peculiar to spirituality itself. It becomes a nostalgic return to one's own self because all of them searched for the nearness of a father. I'm so touched by that word used by Jesus in order to address God. He calls him Abba. In the history of the whole world, you will notice one thing. Jesus is the only one who called, or rather dared to call God as Father. Abba. Yes, they always searched for the nearness of God in their life. Spirituality is a nostalgic return to one's own self, to find the Father in God. Yes, my brothers and sisters, when I look at this Advent season, this exactly is the thought that is emerging in my mind. Advent season evokes in me a sense of nearness towards God. I feel God is near me, and that too in the form of a little child. The nostalgic feeling in me, the unfulfilled desires in me, to see that God is emerging more and more strong, to have him near me as my God is my heart's desire. Therefore, during this Advent season, let's have a little more closer retrospection of our own lives, our spiritual journey to encounter God in reality in our times today. When we speak about Advent, we can never think about it without that word, Bethlehem. Bethlehem means the house of bread. It is said, when Jesus was born, he was laid in the manger, most probably on a heap of hay which was in fact the food of the animals which were there in that manger. Later we would also find Jesus himself says, I am the bread of life. Someone who gives life for the other. Bread becomes a natural aspect of our living lifestyle. And that exactly is what Jesus becomes for each one of us. Bread is something that is to satiate our life. It is our responsibility to eat it, which means to meditate over it. In the Old Testament, we hear a beautiful statement, Son of man, eat the scroll. To eat biblically means to reflect over it, to meditate upon it. Yes, I need to take time to meditate upon all that the Lord is bringing home to me in the season of Advent. His nearness, His word, His enfleshing of the human body, the vicinity of the nearness of God that He gives me in my personal life, in relationship, in love. Yes, God has to be a word that is becoming body for me, food for me, so that I can nourish my own self. I would rather say Jesus today has to become a lifestyle for us. A lifestyle where we will be able to narrate our stories in accordance with His life. A new way of life. Jesus said, I am the way, which means a new style of life that I need to embody in myself in order to have Him as my God enfleshed inside of me. Yes, Bethlehem is the focus of our Advent journey. A new journey that we begin in order to encounter Jesus the Messiah, who would in turn become our Redeemer. There are various aspects that we can narrate when we speak about Bethlehem. But today for me, I take three aspects which are very prominent for us to realize the importance of Bethlehem in ourselves. The very first aspect of Bethlehem is the Word became flesh. My brothers and sisters, the Word is a concept. The Word has to become a reality so that it will be enfleshed in me. Having a Word without its real aspect of it enfleshed in me will never help me to become effective with that Word that I hear. When I look at the younger generation, I see how beautifully they build dreams for themselves. They have dreams about a home. They have dreams about love. They have dreams about life. But until and unless these dreams are enfleshed in reality, how will they have the fulfillment of that? What is the price that you are going to pay for this dream that you hold in your life? Is the question that we need to answer. For a grown-up person, especially in their middle age, it is in fact a nostalgic look back. We had been speaking a lot about our dreams, which we never accomplished perhaps in our lives. Those dreams remained always as a concept without getting realized. That's why I feel sometimes we have spoken a lot about forgiveness without forgiving. We have spoken a lot about mercy and compassion without being merciful and compassionate to others. And that itself is the distance between the concept and the reality. There's a beautiful story mentioned about a man who heard a knock at his door. When he opened the door, he found it was in fact a small snail kicking at his door. He took the snail, threw it away. 6 years later, he again heard a knock at his door. When he opened the door, he found the snail again knocking at his door. And the man shouted at the snail, telling it, "Why are you here again? 6 years back I took you and threw you away. And the snail told, yes, it took me 6 years to come back. I came to ask you, why did you throw me away? Most of the time, this is exactly what is happening with many of us who are grown-ups. After the ordination, someone comes and asks, why did you quarrel with me during the novitiate? Where was our life until now? Unforgiving, unforgotten. We live a life merely in concepts without enfleshing it in reality. All of us might have heard about that famous artist, Van Gogh. During his lifetime, he was not very famous, but posthumously, he became an illustrious artist, and his paintings are well sought after. It is said, perhaps adding with a bit of imagination, the last picture that Van Gogh drew was of the sun. It took him a long time to draw it, but he was never able to complete it. During the time when he was drawing the picture of the sun, he took a gun and shot himself. 3 days he was in the hospital. As the doctors were treating him, they asked him the question, why did you do this? And the answer was very revealing. He said, I understood. I will never be able to paint the sun which is inside of me. Yes, when that sarga vasana, as we would say in the Sanskrit language, the in-depth desire or the essence that is there in me, when I am not able to fulfill it and accomplish it, I become desperate and I commit suicide. Yes, there is a music in me, but I am not able to sing it out aloud. There are steps in me. I am not able to dance it out. And that is the distance that I am creating today between the concept and the reality. My brothers and sisters, are we living in a dream world? Bethlehem brings home to us that basic message. The Word became flesh. The Son of Man came down from heaven, enfleshing himself in our human nature, availing himself totally for our good, and giving himself as a reality in front of us in body and blood. Jesus Christ. He says, I am the living bread. And that in fact is the last consecration that he did, giving his own body and blood for our sake. Are we aware of the growing distance between the concept and the reality? Are we aware of the necessity to enflesh the Word inside of us? Let's challenge ourselves, taking a reflective mood through our journey in this Advent season. Yes, my brothers and sisters, a second aspect of Bethlehem that comes to my mind is this. Bethlehem is a limited place, yet a place of joy and satisfaction. One of the most interesting aspects of the Nativity Church in Bethlehem is its door is very small. The entrance door of the Nativity Church is made very small. If you would like to enter into this church, you have to, by any means, bend your head and enter it. There is a historical reason given for it, that is, so that the enemies, when they would come to attack the church, will not be able to enter it easily. But there is a theological and spiritual reason for that. Until and unless you shed away your ego and bend your head, you will never be able to see your God, encountering Him personally there. Bethlehem is a limited place. Think of that journey Joseph and Mary made from Nazareth to Bethlehem. Mary was at the peak of her pregnancy. And when they reached Bethlehem, they sought a place for them to have a rest. Joseph went and knocked at the door of the inn. And naturally, the innkeeper, opening the door, told them, "You have no place." There may be various reasons for that. Perhaps because Joseph and Mary did not have sufficient money to pay to the innkeeper. Or it could be also because of the religious reasons. If this pregnant woman delivers in this inn, the inn would have to be closed for the sake of purification. Naturally, the reaction of the innkeeper makes Joseph the man to address the issue. The Holy Bible beautifully says, "They laid him in a manger." Khalil Gibran would say, "A home without doors." The place where Jesus was laid is in the manger. But interestingly, the Bible or the evangelist never mention that Jesus was born in the manger. I believe Jesus most probably might have been born at the roadside, just like any migrants would encounter their life situation today in our times. A refugee being born at the roadside. But at the same time, they laid him in the manger. A place where normally no one regularly visits. But as soon as Jesus was laid in the manger became a special place. And what's the speciality? The angels of God themselves came down singing Hallelujah. The shepherds came, perhaps also with a lot of milk for this little boy to drink. And the wise men came with gifts from various corners of the world. Yes, the manger becomes a beautiful and joyful place for Jesus to lay. Yes, my brothers and sisters, today one of the greatest tragedies of our time is our needs are larger and larger. Mahatma Gandhi once said, in order to address your life situation properly, you have to first reduce your want and address your needs. Yes, are we today doing that? We are today living in a hyper generation, a world where people are looking for globality, where marketing becomes the sustaining aspect of human life. The biggest idol that the younger generation today worshipping is the idol of the marketplace. Most of them enter the fray of the market. Some succeed, but many others go depressed and sad, failing to have a fulfillment for themselves. Bethlehem becomes an attitude today when we are able to see the smallness of this place and to enjoy it in the most effective way. Are our homes today homes without doors? Are we able to meet with each other properly? Or are we occupied with our mobiles today to that extent, even during the meal, we are disturbed and distracted without having even the compassionate attitude to dialogue with our elderly parents, with our siblings, with our life partner, with our children? Yes, are we making this little place of our home a Bethlehem where God's presence is guaranteed to each one of us? My brothers and sisters, Bethlehem is a little place, yet a place of satisfaction and joy. The third aspect that I would like to highlight on Bethlehem is the respectfulness that we need to have towards our human body. When Jesus became a human being, we use that particular word, he was incarnated. It comes from that word carnal. Carnal means flesh, Jesus became a fleshy being just like you and me. That's why the apostle later would ask, don't you remember that your body is a temple? Yes, my brothers and sisters, respect towards human body today is one of the most important aspects of Bethlehem experience. Jesus, who took charge of this human embodiment, became a sense of purity and holiness for all of us. His body is the temple of God, and as a consequence, all of us realize that our bodiliness is where God dwells. I'm always enchanted by that beautiful presentation in the book of Genesis of the creation narrative. When God wanted to create human being, what did he do? He made a heap of mud, and there he shaped a man. And after having given the shape of the man with his nostrils, with his head, ears, eyes, what did God do finally? God bent down and breathed into his nostrils. My brothers and sisters, remember, when does one breath meet with another breath? It is in kissing. The first kiss that human being received is from God. And as a consequence, God's kiss becomes the reality of my life. I become a temple of God's breath in me. The vibration, the movement that I have today is because of that kiss that I received from my God. His kiss is the life-giving kiss. Those of us who have got some people who have experienced a stroke once in their life, we know how important is the movement of the human body. Sometime or the other, the doctor comes out of the ICU and tells, now his eyes are blinking. What a joy we have. Sometimes the doctor says, his hands are moving. What a joy that we have when we hear that. Even the slightest movement of the eye and the hand can make us so happy because we know God's presence is there in it. Unconsciously, my brothers and sisters, we have marketed our human bodiliness. We have become addicted to flesh to that extent we forget the realization that God is dwelling there in that body. That's why even in a sexual intimate relationship, it is one temple meeting another temple, not one inn meeting another inn. Your body is the temple of God. How wonderful it is for us to realize when we see this little babe in the manger that God's presence is given to us in our bodiliness. And this body is the temple of God. Let's once again recollect all what we reflected. Today we are journeying towards Bethlehem, the house of bread. And Jesus himself is that bread who has given his own self for our sake to nourish us and to make us grow in our lives. Yes, we realized that in this process of becoming that bread for others, the Word became flesh. The Word, which is a concept, is enfleshed in and through me. Through my dreams, I have to become the new Jesus in my style of life. Secondly, Bethlehem is a little place, at the same time, a place of joy. I need to realize I have to build homes without doors so that everyone can enter into my vicinity. And thirdly, Bethlehem reminds us of the holiness of our body. Body is the place where God dwells. It is the temple of God. Let us travel through this Advent towards that Bethlehem in order to encounter Him who is enfleshed in our times, here and now. Amen.